Hi, I'm Bob, and welcome to this Talon tutorial video for Empire War using Vassal. In this video, I will walk you through setting up an Empire War game and some of the basics of Empire War. Okay, let's talk about Empire War. If you're unfamiliar, Empire War is a way to play out a large campaign of many battles, with both sides pushing the front line back and forth across a strategic map. As you capture territory, you gain more resources with which to build ships. The ultimate goal is to win a battle over your opponent's homeworld, but to do that, you'll have to push a front line marker all the way to your opponent's homeworld while defending your own. Each of the 4 sectors has a frontline marker indicating what the current combat zone is. This is where battles will take place every round. Every strategic round will have 4 battles, one for every sector, until a frontline marker gets placed over a player's home world. Strategic rounds have 3 phases: the building phase, the ship assignment phase, and the battle phase. But before any normal strategic round starts, an initial round takes place where players buy their initial bases and set up their initial fleets. Let's start with that first initial round. First, on this menu, each player must right-click on a faction and select Take Control. This assigns the faction to you. Each player starts the game with 3 bases. Unlike ships, which we will assign to sectors momentarily, bases are assigned to combat zones and only come into play when the frontline marker actually moves into that combat zone. One of the initial bases must be placed on your home planet. At this point, you can spend some of your initial 2,000 ship points to buy additional bases. This is the only point in the game in which you can buy and place new bases. Bases cannot be placed in any of the combat zones where the initial frontline marker is. The location of your bases is hidden until both players are ready to proceed. Then it is revealed by selecting this option. Sensors and recon can detect where the bases are. After the initial base phase, we do your initial ship buying and assignment. Go to your Factions tab in the Empire War window. Open up the Ship Counter menu and drag down the ships you want to buy to a sector or the Fleet Reserve. This is the only way to purchase ships. Dragging them from the game board back to this window does not deduct ship points from your treasury. If you bought something accidentally and want to undo the purchase, right-click on the ship and say Remove with Refund. To start, 500 ship points worth of ships must be assigned to your Fleet Reserve. This only applies for this initial round. Your Fleet Reserve are ships that are not in the active fleet, and they won't go into battle in the upcoming battle phase. This is where ships go in order to repair. Each ship has a logistics point value, depending on its size. This is automatically calculated by Vassal. In order to keep you from committing all of your forces to one sector, you must comply with a logistics point limit, as the game tracks how many logistics points are assigned to each sector. Before you can proceed to the battle phase, every sector must have LP above the LP per sector minimum. Also, you must always have at least 1 ship of every class. That's easy to check. You just look at each of these columns here. If you're ever missing a ship class, then the next ship you purchase must be of the missing class. You cannot ever have more than 5 times of one ship as you do of another, the exception being fighters. Thankfully, this window tracks your ship counts for you. Fighters must be deployed with the friendly carrier. When everybody is done with the initial buying and assignments, the first battle phase begins. This will be 1 battle in every sector in these combat zones that have frontline markers. We always start in the Anteri sector and work our way down. First, forces are revealed for both sides. To do this, right-click on a sector name and say Reveal Sector Fleet. Now your opponent can actually see what you have in that sector. Both players now choose if they want to engage or not. If you don't want to engage, the frontline marker moves towards the player that opted out of the battle, as if they had lost. They, of course, don't lose any of their ships if they do this. To battle, select the standard setup from the scenario menu and drag down your ships. Some combat zones have terrain in their box that must be placed by the initiative player using the normal terrain placement rules. Some combat zones have dice. This means you roll 2 dice and look at the result on the astrometric slab chart. Planets represent key choke points. In order for the frontline marker to advance past a planet, it must be captured by the advancing player. If combat occurs above a planet, it is treated like a planetary invasion scenario. However, to take control of a planet, a player must land 2 more transports on the planet than the owning player during the duration of the battle. The planet owner cannot deploy any of his transports at the start of the battle and must wait until the reinforcement phase of combat round number 1. Enemy transports cannot be landed until all bases belonging to the owning player are destroyed. If the ownership of the planet changes, right-click on this marker and say Flip. To end a battle, each player must right-click on that battle's frontline marker and say End Combat. Once both players do this, Vassal automatically sends all ships back to their respective sector rows in the Empire War menu. Some ships undergo temporary repairs. This is done automatically in Vassal when the ships return to the Empire War window. All shields are restored, as are all repairable critical damage and the FTL down effect. Hull damage and broken weapons are not repaired. To repair these things, the ship must be assigned to the Fleet Reserve during the next assignment phase. Bases automatically repair all critical damage and repair 1 hull point per strategic round. They cannot be sent to the Fleet Reserve since they cannot travel at FTL speed. After the initial base, building, assignment, and battle are complete, the game proceeds in normal strategic rounds. In the building phase, the point value of the combat zone where the frontline marker is added to each faction's treasury. That does it for this tutorial. Hopefully now you can get a campaign of Empire War going with your friends online. Once again, thank you to Stefano Tene for producing this Vassal module. Good luck out there.